Okay, so I've got another question for everyone then, and John, I'm going to ask you to come in a little bit here. So, if we're looking then at financial education to not only improve engagement and take up of those benefits, but also from a well-being point of view, what could people consider doing? What can people do to really help bring in that financial education?
Yeah, and I think there are some really simple things. And the whole piece I was listening to the bit earlier, but the uptake on benefits, if an employer is going to offer whatever the benefit is to an employee, why wouldn't they want a high take up as possible? Because assuming that that benefit's or the employer believes that that benefit is a positive thing, and if they don't, why are they offering it? Then they'd want as many people to take it up as possible. So this for me is simply about education. Now, if the employer doesn't feel comfortable in doing that education themselves around the individual product, well, that's where you bring in other people. On the pension side, the pension provider or the whoever runs the scheme will often be able to help and support and provide that information. It depends who you get with those, because they do tend to be a bit
Hit and miss.
well, yeah, because they can be very specific with regards to their product rather than a more generic discussion about retirement planning. So they can talk specifically about how you can fill in a particular form for um, notification of wishes or something like that. But if they're talking more generically about your retirement planning and how to get the most of it, they won't necessarily see that side. But there are lots of different things you can do. But a lot of that we see from our own experience is not only about bringing in the experts to talk about it and get conversations going, but it's also as an employer promoting that. So if we work with an employer who's genuinely passionate about this, we can get great turnouts on our workshops and things that we do around a particular area. But the contra to that, if it's just, well, here's a workshop to talk about pensions, crack on with it. You don't get that same piece. So it's that genuine passion coming through. I think it's about talking. It's about bringing this up on a regular basis, not just within the pay cycle or when it's time to renew your benefits, but that regular conversation piece that should be coming up about talking about it holistically, I suppose.
I
Or
was also
failing
just
that, just get Finwell in to do it and we'll happily do it for you.
I was just going to throw in about some of the pitfalls and the downside as well, because with any product, whether it's a pension or whether it's a wage advance scheme, it's not for everybody. And I think it's about the pros and cons, and that wage advance. I know I keep coming back to wage advance, but on the face of it, people go, "Oh, I can get my wages early. That sounds great." Absolutely, but you've got to wait longer till next payday. Then you get into a cycle, then you're budgeting, and so on. So I think there is an element of not just the product and what it does; it's the pros and cons and how it can work for some and not for others. And I think that's the same with, whether it's a pension, whether it's a perk. It's not
Yeah.
for everybody. Because we're also
It's
very different.
It is also the why. Why would you or why wouldn't you? It's that greater understanding rather than what is it, but how would it benefit you? What could this do for you? And what damage could it do as well?
Yeah, good point.
And again, David, who's been ever so active in the chat, thank you so much. But he raises really validly on there that relatable context of understanding how their finances work and the wider piece and what options people have got, rather than just this is what something does, sign up to it, and this is how much it costs you, or
Yeah.
this is how much you get from it.
I
Um,
think the
really
other thing,
can help.
just echoing David's point there, is that different people learn in different ways, right? So, and we know this through, for the work we do for Finwell, but, not everybody is going to know, maybe people know what an ISA is, but perhaps they don't know what a LISA is, or, and it's, not everyone can just go off and read you know, a website, right? Some people will, you know, do their own research and go look at credible content, which is great. Other people will just do what TikTok tells them to do. Other people will want specific one-to-one guidance. Others can just listen to a webinar and go off and do what they need to do. So I think it's about having a broad, different range of options. We see a lot of digital tech in this space as well. Digital apps are all the latest, aren't they? But actually an app's only as good as knowing how to navigate around it and what's in it that might help somebody in the future. So I think it's a balance of different ways of educating people through different methods. Yeah, Steve, you've got your reaction up. Yay.
Yeah, I thought I'd try.
Yeah, well done.
A couple of things just to unpack in different orders there. Let's your point about ISAs is interesting, because I mean, I've never seen the stats, so I don't know. But I suspect the vast majority of people that take ISAs each year don't realise they don't need to take ISAs to get tax-free returns. Because for most people, they're going to get tax-free returns anyway. The vast majority of savers will get tax-free returns. So straight away, even though they might know why they're taking an ISA, which is they've heard the tax-free returns message, that's great, they're actually taking a product they don't particularly need very often. So that comes back to that sort of big gulf in understanding. But coming back to John's point earlier on, which did make me smile, because it just reminded me of one of my worst moments in employee benefits, frankly, which is where an employer gives only faint praise or encouragement to do something. I was sitting at a team meeting for a company on a Monday night at 7:30 in the middle of winter. The guy who was talking just droned on and on. I knew I had to give a pension presentation at the end to a disengaged workforce. When he finished, he said, "And now you're going to hear from Steve Herbert about the pension scheme, but I'm going to the pub and putting some money behind the bar."
Yeah.
And that was it. So there was only 2 people left in the meeting out of about 30. And I've got no one interested in the pension at all. And that's the sort of thing. Unless companies and employers are actively engaged and really do see the benefit of what they're doing, that won't come through. That won't follow through to the employees.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And as someone who absolutely loves employee benefits, it's my favourite bit of reward. The companies who are most successful in getting good benefit take up, getting good engagement, getting good understanding, are the ones that link it all together. So the ones that draw that golden thread through all of the things, who understand that, you know, there are certain points in the year and certain life changes, and you know, it's almost, I always say to all of my clients when I start, you know, let's do a calendar, not of a year but of 18 months, so that we can go through and actually make this a really strong message all the way through. And actually the benefit of doing that is you can tie it in with corporate messages as well. You can make sure that things don't get lost. And I think, you know, that it's probably not a word, but the passivity, being passive about these kind of things is not the right, if it's not a word, it is now, a bit like planful, I'm having that. You know, it is, if employees are passive about these things, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And having it kind of championed from, you know, the top down, the middle out, bottom up, you know, however you do it, it's really important, because actually money is scary to a lot of people. Finances are scary to a lot of people. You don't know what you don't know. It all seems really complicated. You know, it's almost like, you know, we talk about finance and banking as being like a separate breed. It's not like us. So actually having, you know, really visible and really constant and consistent messages about actually how most things do come back to money in some way,
Yeah.
is a really good way to get people engaged, and a really good way to make sure that people you know, pay attention and take the action that they feel able to take, and feel supported in taking that action when they need to. Because I think, you know, it's, money is one of those don't know what you don't know topics, isn't it? You know, it's not massive for a lot of people, apart from amongst us nowadays. You know, it wasn't taught in school. Your habits around money very much come from your parents. If they didn't know, you don't know. And it's about making sure that you can make it relevant. You know, there's nothing worse than internal comms teams pumping out really irrelevant stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, you've got to make sure that it's actually tied to an event, and people understand why you're saying what you're saying, where, you know, when you're saying it.
And also not just trying to tick a box for everybody, because the one thing that I know is that you can't fix everyone's financial well-being with one workshop. Okay, it's such a broad you know, and people learn in different ways. They need a variety of different learning methods. So it's as Ryan's put there in the chat, that kind of proactive, planned, personalized. But the management buy-in, I can't say it enough. When I used to work in the bank, you know, I had to know the ins and outs of all of those employee benefits, whether or not I was using them or not. But the amount of people we talk to, and when we say, right, tell us about your employee benefits, they don't know, and they're, you know, they're the HR person. So it's about everybody's knowledge as well, and not just employees.